Powers of 10 issue number 4, something sinister, aka, huh? What just happened? This is what I could surmise. Most important thing is that Professor X told Sinister, you're gonna do all this. All the trauma that Scott has been through, everything that Sinister did was based off of Charles. I'm gonna tell you to do this, you're not gonna remember why you're doing it, but you're gonna be this mutant geneticist. Go. I'll remind you in 10 years. That's important. The timer that he sets. The fact that he did that to Sinister means that he did that to himself and Magneto, and Moira would be the other person to know this. Nobody else does, which explains why the last 80 years of Marvel have been what they were. Not 80. I don't think the mutants were introduced that early, but that's why. Forgetful timer set. Moira's timer did not activate because unfortunately she happened to be dead. But they did need to wipe her mind to let events play out as they did. Maybe in my estimation, it's so that they could not fast forward Nimrod's appearance or existence. For that purpose, they're like, we just got to play things normally, however things happen. So all the House of M, Genosha, all that, maybe all that trauma was needed. All of that experience, they needed to go through the pain. Because if you don't go through the pain, the motivation won't be there. And I feel like that's a strong point to go on. And it makes a whole lot of sense. It's not retcon. Well, it's not dangerously retconning. I'm sure it's is it retconning or not? It's not ignoring anything. It's just adding something to the past that wasn't there, but does not in any way contradict anything. So what I said in my first House of X number 2 review was that, well, anytime you read an old comic book and see Moira having a thought bubble, then you're gonna know that this is bullshit because she's supposed to be mutant the whole time. Well, if Professor X did the mind erase and set a timer on her for 10 years, then that explains why that said thought bubble was ignorant to her mutant abilities of reincarnation. So, like, bravo to Hickman for that. Hickman gets another applause for explaining Krakoa. The backstory of there was a chasm and Krakoa split with Akara. Akara's probably a woman because in Jason Aaron's Wolverine and the X-Men, they had a son. So where did the son come from? I mean, it's a tree. It could have came out of a seed too. Boy, we're gonna go with that. Chillmonger's gonna go with that. Apocalypse and his 4 horsemen saved the day, and maybe, or he fought them. So maybe that's where Krakoa's beef with mutants comes from, perhaps. There was a sword also in there, which could have been, I don't know, Null's sword. What's the sword? Was it Gore the God Butcher? Ugh, you guys know what I'm talking about if you're Marvel heads. And somebody in the comment section, please help me know what I'm talking about. Help other people know what I'm talking about. There, the next part of the story is the future part, the phalanxes, and like that doesn't matter to me at all. Why even care about the 1,000 years in the future? It's not one of the lives, is it? That's the only kind of redeeming thing I can say about the future is if it ends the same way that the last Powers of 10 ended, so ends the ninth life of Moira McTaggart. Maybe this is the sixth life of Moira McTaggart, all the way in the future with the phalanxes. Maybe, I don't know. I don't care for the phalanxes and I don't care for that timeline. There's not even like a familiar face from that timeline at all. There's these people here and here. Is that Charles and Moira? And they got their little Nimrod thing. That's different Nimrod than the kind of poetic Shakespeare Nimrod that we got earlier. I don't know. Something about Nimrod. New X-Men issue 31, which I read. They defeat him by sending him into the future. So if this is happening in the same timeline, I'm sure all of these precautions they were taking to kill Nimrod and stop him from existing, getting the fucking mother mold, all of that, there's already a Nimrod coming because of what Chris Yost, Craig Kyle, and Paco Medina wrote in 2006. It was the same week of the Storm and Black Panther wedding, so Civil War was happening too. It happened in Dallas where Forge wasn't invited. But the reason I'm bringing it up is if they ever wanted to, which I'm sure they will, Nimrod will show back up and it'll be fucking, how did Nimrod get back? And it'll be a great story. it would have to be on the anniversary of Storm and T'Challa's wedding. So if Marvel ever does a mega event with the Black Panther and Storm marrying again, look out for that Nimrod. It would just make sense for him to move to the future to, an anniversary date. In comics, we all know 10 years move by everything happened in comics in 10 years. So, shoot, they'd have to introduce the 11th year, I guess. Wouldn't they? Wouldn't that mean that people would have to age until the 11th year? Wouldn't that be a cool Marvel thing? We had Legacy, we had all new different Marvel. What about Marvel Year 11? Now, everyone who, stayed a teenager for the longest time, all your favorite young Avengers, Ms. Marvel, that's how you pronounce her name, by the way, Ms. Marvel, with the emphasis on the Z. All you YouTubers calling it her Miss Marvel, acting like you know what you're talking about. Ms. Marvel. Well, but she could turn in 16, and so can Riri, and, and all our new X-Men friends. Maybe they'll be taken seriously, because Hisako is like one bad experience from turning into a villain because she's pretty cheesed doing these sewer missions. You read those comic books. I've run out of things to say, and I realize that, so I'll end the video. Unlike your other favorite YouTubers who try to stretch it out to 10 minutes so they can stick an ad in the middle. I know about them.